If you're a residential real estate agent earning $200,000 a year and you want to grow your passive income, this show's for you. Learn the secrets other agents use and hear from experts in our field in order to guide you along your journey to investing in assets like apartment communities so that you can turn your commissions into cash flow. I'm Randall McLeod. Let's go, baby. All right, agents, welcome back. This is a fantastic episode. It's going to be very nitty gritty or not nitty gritty, maybe more so investment focused, very heavy on the investment side with a guy who's been in the business for a long time in multiple facets. His name is Ken Brown. He's the owner of Quasar Property Management and Real Estate, also the owner of Metropolitan Funding Group. And his experience, we start back, he tells me about when he was 18 buying properties at the courthouse steps in college and how that morphed into him getting into investment banking and then working for Chase doing loans all through the 90s and all the way up to 2007, 2008, right before the financial crisis. So ton of experience in a lot of different areas of the investing world and structuring deals and strategy. So get your pen and paper. If you want to learn something, write it down. I love this episode. I'm definitely going to have Ken back on. We're going to talk more just because we're talking shop and it's really easy to get into that conversation and we had to cut it short. So, and without further ado, let's bring on Ken. Here we go. All right, Ken, thanks for jumping on. I'm happy to have you on today, talk real estate in general. Looks like you've been in the business for quite some time. Just gave you an intro. So why don't we jump in? I want to talk first and foremost on the brokerage front. I know you're on a team, but I'm curious from looking at your site and looking at some of the stuff that you do, did you get into real estate from the property management side or from the sales side or from the loan side? Like you've got a couple things going on. So I know you're a wealth of knowledge. Let's dive in.
So I bought my first property at 18. Okay. So I got into real estate buying foreclosures in the late 80s, 88, 89, up in New Jersey, which is where I grew up. And I would go out back then. You went to the courthouse on Monday mornings with a pad of paper and a pen, and the attorneys would come in and they'd make their filings in writing on these 3x5 cards. And there'd be a group of us, 5 or 6 of us, who would sit there and wait. And at noon, the county offices closed the window, and then we would take those 3.5x5 cards, and pass them around, take whatever notes we wanted on people who were going to be foreclosed upon. Then you go driving around, knock on doors, and you introduce yourself to people and say, hey, you're going to be foreclosed. Let's see what we can do to help you out. And I would offer people, $5,000 or $10,000 cash that I would hand to them when they signed their quitclaim deed to me, and they had all their stuff in their U-Haul and driving away.
Yeah.
And that's what I did as a teenager back in the late 80s. Man,
so I bet just on that, hang on a second, because I've had the conversation. I've called and done the short sale conversation. Hey, you guys, you're in foreclosure. The wife doesn't even know about it. And it's like this huge thing. So what is one, I know it's been a minute, but craziest story you have from that time of your life? You have something you can share?
The craziest story? Well, I got up to one house and a guy answered the door, put a shotgun to my head.
Yeah. So. Like that had to happen. It's like,
okay. The answer was, well, have a good day.
Yeah. You're not. Yeah. No one's taking your house. Bye-bye. Yeah. Okay. So interesting. So you started on the investing side, and then how did you transition that into, because I know you worked at JP Morgan, right? You worked at some banks and you did some things. So what was the evolution from investor to where you are like now, broker?
Well, so I worked at JP Morgan from 1993 to 2008 doing real estate mortgages. Okay. And I was doing about 1,000 loan closings a year, $100 million worth of business a year. Yep. And of course, the writing's on the wall come 2007, what's going to happen to the market? Well, it just so happened that was the 15-year mark of my working at JP Morgan. And when I started working 15 years ago, part of my HR was to fill out when I wanted to retire. So I just for fun put down when I was 40. So I got a call a couple of months after my 40th birthday from HR who said, hey, you turned 40, you're getting your retirement from JP Morgan. I said, no, I'm not ready to retire. Let's move it down the road. And they said, you can't. It's too late. you're getting your retirement. And I said, okay, how much is it? And they told me. I said, okay, have a good day. And I left. And at that time, because the market was turning, and I am a relatively conservative, frugal person, the sun was shining. I made a lot of hay and I banked it all. So what I did when I left JP Morgan, I started buying real estate. And I bought 80 properties between 2008 and 2013. And so I created Quasar to manage those properties. And over time, people started asking me to manage their properties as well. And sure, why not? I already have the system in place. Might as well discount my own costs, make some more money. Doesn't cost me much more to manage the next property. So I started adding people's properties. And at some point, one of my, I guess you could call friends who also invested in properties, he did fix and flips. He bought a property in a condominium association that he couldn't sell because the association was messed up. So he asked me to come in and manage the association. So I've been managing associations since then. But I put together investor partnerships and we buy properties at nice steep discount prices because they're in trouble. We work them up, fix them up, turn them around and sell them.
Yeah. So you've always been principal, it sounds like. The brokerage evolved around your activities.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. Very similar situation. Yeah. It was always something that helped. It wasn't necessarily the main business where you went out and you're just doing sales. So having that, have you now turned into, you have full-time sales staff that's all they're doing, the brokerage side of the business, or is it still just mainly focused on the acting as principal, your own operations?
No, I have a staff, I guess approaching 15 people in staff. Plus I have real estate agents that go out and they do their own sales, vertically integrated, do maintenance in-house. So I have maintenance staff and a maintenance manager, but it's just a full service company. So I do everything for everybody. Current project I got dumped into 61 unit building that needs 20 balconies completely replaced for about $1 million. The owners of that in that condominium don't have the money. I'll foot the bill. I'll take care of it. I'll make money managing the association. I'll make money overseeing the project. I'll make money financing that particular, all the work. So the contractor who's going to get paid, I'll cut him the check. The individual unit owners will then pay me back, and through Metropolitan Funding Group, my finance arm, I'll charge them 18% interest, and they'll pay me back that way.
Yeah, I was going to say, so they're taking out a loan, or some form. Like, how are you getting governance over that association essentially to make sure you get paid back?
In a condominium association, is run by a board of directors. So we actually had the meeting last night. All the unit owners who were affected by their balconies were on the meeting, and because the county is going to fine them $1,000 a day if they don't do this, and their insurance company is going to cancel their insurance, they'll be out on the street. So the prior management company totally messed up. I would use stronger language, but we're on a podcast here, so I'm not
family friendly. Yeah, you can use whatever language you want.
That's all right. So, but they had 2.5 years to work on it, and they failed to execute. So now it's the 11th hour. I call it 11. It's 11:59 and 45 seconds. At 12 o'clock, we turn to pumpkins. So they don't have much of a choice. They need to do it. And part of the discussion last night at our meeting was that they can't afford it. They can't pay $40,000, $50,000 per unit to do this work. So I'll pay for the financing. The unit owners will vote at the meeting to have the board be authorized to sign on behalf of all of the unit owners for the work to be done. So the unit owners will pay me directly. If the unit owner defaults, then the association as a whole is responsible for paying me, and then they will chase the unit owner for compensation. So I'm covered to getting paid. Yeah,
that's a solid strategy. So you've been doing that on the management, the 61 unit. Is that more like condominiumized, or do you do that for like multifamily apartment style?
I'll do it for whatever. In this particular case, it's a condominium project.
Yeah,
that I just took on April 27th.
Yeah. Hey, so man, I'm curious about that then, because there's a a lot of the projects that I've been looking at in the 30 to 120 unit range, it seems to be a difficult management, right? I mean,
Nope.
no, okay, you're saying no. I agree, but what my curiosity point comes in is where is there savings, or where can you actually implement either technology or some kind of strategy that makes those not, I guess, like a pain point for investors coming in to buy those things, because that's like the biggest talk. Okay. Everybody's like, oh man, it's going to be hard to find management for that. No one wants to do it. It's going to cost 10% or 8% or whatever it is. So kind of curious your take on that.
Okay. So give you a different example. There's a 61 unit condominium project that an investor LLC that I put together purchased 26 units out of 61 back in 2015.
Yep.
The first thing we did is we jacked the condo dues up to the roof, did a whole bunch of capital improvements to the property, repairs, and of course, some of the owners sold out cheap. Well, because the dues were so high, we had the association purchase those units. So now there's fewer units owned by other people. The association owns a number of units. The LLC with the investors I put together owns those same 26 units. So now you're getting the benefit of the units that are owned by the association as well. Management is easy. Once you have voting control over an association, then you can control it from an investor side. You're right. If a lot of investors go in, they buy one condo unit and they have to pay that condo fee, and they treat it like a single family house. They say, oh, it's a condominium. It's great. I don't have to do anything in the common areas. Well, that condominium fee keeps going up because the association overall doesn't want to pay for things, and you have deferred maintenance, and the association goes down from Class A to Class B to Class C to Class D, then it blows up and gets redeveloped. Okay. So if you're an investor buying a single condo unit, you probably don't make a lot of money on that one condo. Okay. But if you're buying a group of condominium units within an association, if you can gain control over the board and the voting and set the budget and set the condo dues, then you can control the entire association and you can make out like a bandit.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a couple different thought processes on it. If you want to accumulate properties, you jack the condo fees up, you're putting into the pool, but so is everybody else. And then when units come available, either through foreclosure, and it's difficult for people to, it seems to be difficult for people to wrap their heads around that, oh, well, you're foreclosing on, the association is foreclosing on that unit. They owe this money, but it's to the association. So we have 2 units that are going to go to foreclosure on June 1st in an association that we manage, that it's all the dues to the association. The association will end up picking up those 2 units. They won't have the money, but they'll have the units.
Yeah.
And then all the other units will share in the benefit of those units. So
then what do you do once the association owns those? So they just turn into rentals that then
they turn into rentals,
the association?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you get to the point where the association owns all the rest of the units besides the group that you own, well, guess what? You own all of the units, and you've used other people's money to get them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's solid. Yeah, there's not a huge condo market in San Antonio. I'm down in Texas. So I guess, can you handle that question then on like an apartment complex that's not condominiumized? How do you guys handle, do you manage those?
Absolutely.
Do you manage 50, 100 unit, 200 unit type deals, or what is your bread and butter?
My bread and butter is smaller units, because once you get truly to economy of scale, the bigger buildings, they tend to have larger systems like main boilers and so forth. And it's not good economy of scale. I mean, you think economy of scale, you'd benefit, but on an apartment building, if you have one boiler for everybody, one hot water heater, you think, oh, I don't only have to repair one thing, but you're not separating the meters out.
Yeah.
So your tenants leave the windows open in the winter, in the summer with the air conditioning on, and it rolls your bills significantly higher. And usually when I come into a multifamily building like that, I get rid of the common area, the common boiler system, get rid of it, and put individual HVAC units in each unit, and then separately meter those units. It's hard to run gas lines, so it's just all electric.
Yep.
Electric is easy.
Yeah.
For a box in each unit, independently meter them, and then the tenants pay for them. And usually the tenants are happy to do so because then they get to control the temperature, warm, cold of their unit, even though they're paying the bill.
Yeah. And Sally down the way I'm not paying part of her bill because she left her window open type thing. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
For the owner who's managing it.
Yeah.
And then the other piece, because everyone says, it's tough to maintain all these units, maintain all this, and you're going to spend money on maintenance. One of the things that I do that I don't see a lot of other management companies do is I have a staff member, his entire job, his sole job is to go and inspect units. And he's going to look for two things. He's going to look for things that we need to do for deferred maintenance that we as owners or the owner needs to do if we're managing for the owner to keep the property in good shape. And then they're going to look at what the tenant is or is not doing that the tenant needs to be violated on. So if the tenant doesn't have basic housekeeping, doesn't change the filter on the furnace, doesn't do this, doesn't do whatever, that inspector sends me an email to another one of my staff members, and they send a violation notice out. And depending upon what it is, you have 15 days to cure, 30 days to cure that violation, or we're going to fine you right away. Again, depending upon what it is.
Yeah.
So for like air filters on a HVAC unit, if I go there, if my inspector goes there and finds a dirty air filter, it's an immediate fine to the tenant because they're required to keep them clean because we want those systems to last a long period of time. And the first time everybody bitches about it, but I'll tell you, by the time you're in there for any period of time, they're changing the filters because the filters are only a couple of bucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a learned deal. Yeah. I love that because I heard something today. Somebody was talking about all these single family owners just not running their rental portfolio like a business. It's like, oh, they're a good tenant. They're this, they're that. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's an asset that you're trying to maintain. So 100%. Yeah. You stay on top of them. Same with late. I'd love to see one of your leases. Honestly, it's like you're going to get, it's like, what's the fine for no AC filter change? Is it like
it could be
tens of dollars?
$50 to $250.
Okay. Yeah.
Depending on the jurisdiction.
Yeah. We're proud to be sponsored by Ridgeline Investment Group. Ridgeline has a track record of transacting more than $53 million in assets throughout Texas. Ridgeline is currently looking to acquire 100 to 200 unit Class B multifamily communities between 5 and 20 million in San Antonio, Temple, Waco, Tyler, and other Texas secondary markets. To learn more about Ridgeline Investment Group, visit www.ridgelineig.com. And then just for listeners, so how many units do you typically have at any given time? I don't know if you're rolling some in, some out, some are selling, some are like, what do you guys manage?
So I'm pretty small overall. I mean, I've grown organically over the years. I really haven't been marketing to grow the business. It's all been word of mouth.
Yeah.
Because I started this to just deal with my properties, the 80 units that I purchased. And I purchased again between 2008 and 2013. I started turning around and selling my units in 2018. So I sold half my portfolio in 2018 to an investor group out on Wall Street.
Yep.
Somebody came in and picked it up, and I took a five-fold return on my cash investment.
Yeah.
So
plus cash flow along the way, depreciation.
Plus cash flow along the way. Correct.
Yeah. Pretty good.
The rest of it, I've sort of been piecemealing out over the past years, and I'm down to just a couple of properties that I own or I have a financial interest in personally. And I've just been growing the management pieces. People just call me. But it's I'm up to about 1,000 doors that I manage across the board. And because I do multiple services, when somebody wants to sell their property, I'm usually listing it for sale.
Yeah.
So real estate commission on the sale.
Yeah.
Leasing commission to put a tenant in, management commission for managing the property, and then sales commission to sell the property.
Yeah. And I saw, so you're doing commercial or do you focus mainly on residential? Because I see you have some stuff on here for commercial.
I'm more residential than commercial, but I have some commercial stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Because again, the bread and butter, I guess, on the residential side, my first broker, when I first got into the business, he at the time was only doing sales. And then he was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. It's going to be property management. And he built this massive system. And what I love about it is one, there's very little risk to us in that world. Like you have the insurance, you have everything that you need, and you're offering that service, doing all that, but it's a cash flow business. I mean, once you have that, it's a cash flow business. You sell somebody once, and then like you said, you're vertically integrated. So you've got the sales when they happen, and then probably the purchase because they're going to roll that into another transaction. So,
well, in all honesty, the property management portion of it is not the greatest moneymaker.
Okay.
Okay. Because you're taking, and I charge 10% of rents.
Mm-hmm.
And so even a $2,000 a month rent, you're only charging $200 a month to manage it. And repairs come up, do other things. You can get ancillary income because I do have maintenance staff, but you get someone who gets on the phone who's a pain in the ass, who calls you and talks to you 15 minutes, 20 minutes just to complain. It sucks up a lot of time and not a lot of money on the management piece.
Yeah. It's a loss
the
leader.
Rest of it's basically to control the rest of the business.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if from an investor standpoint, you're making money as an investor on your cash flow, right? So your down payment is 20 or 25% of the property plus some closing costs. And then you need to get a cash on cash return on that property. You're going to pay a mortgage, and then you have depreciation, right? So you have a cash on cash, you have some money that goes to reduce your debt, right, on the amortization of the mortgage, and some that you get a tax benefit from the depreciation.
Yeah.
But you need to get that cash on cash return, so you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money on repairs and things like that. So from an investor side, you don't want to do all of that. You don't want to spend that kind of money, which every time I hear someone say that, I smile, because a lot of people don't realize you spend a little bit up front, saves you a lot of money down the road. For
sure. Yeah. Especially if you're getting the service of going in and finding people for not changing their air filters. I know some PMs do that, but not everybody does. And that's when your asset actually starts to deteriorate. So that level of service obviously is well worth it. And that, to your point of, do the work up front, make sure the house is in good working order and clean and maintained and all of that good stuff.
Especially clean to maintain. I mean, I'll find tenants just for housekeeping.
Yeah.
Because then they call and they complain about roaches.
100%.
Well, you got roaches because you don't clean up your countertop. It's littered with food.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you this. So buying, this can go two ways. Now that you're transitioning out, obviously you would have learned a lot about things to do, things to avoid. We kind of alluded to two of them just now, which is just maintaining the property. But some things that you learned when you were just managing your own assets that have helped your clients now avoid some headache or some problem.
I'm an asshole.
I tell my wife that too. Do tell.
So here's the thing. And I make a joke of it. Back when I was working at JP Morgan, people would ask me, well, are your rates negotiable? Right? I'm giving you a mortgage loan. Are your rates negotiable? What do you think my answer was?
No.
Wrong. My answer is yes. My rates are negotiable. How much more do you want to pay?
There you go. Yeah.
You laugh, and most people laughed at that.
That's right.
Because basically, if you want me to cut my price, okay, you either think I'm lying to you as to what the prices are, or you don't value my time and services. Okay. So when I deal with tenants or when I deal with investors, whoever I'm dealing with, okay, you want this house? This is the price of that house, and the house is going to be given to you in good shape. If there's a problem with the house, that is the owner's responsibility. It will be dealt with timely and dealt with properly. However, if there's a problem with the house and it's your responsibility, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire to fix it. And if you don't fix it, I'm going to come in and fix it and then charge you for it.
Yeah, no, that's solid. I mean, just that tip alone, anyone who is listening should take that to heart. Just take it to heart. Sorry, you were going to say something else. Go ahead.
Well, I just don't take any lip from anybody.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm an asshole. You don't like it? Well, you have a lease. If you don't like the lease, there's the door. Yeah. And we can worry about a breakup fee down the road, because we're not going to let you live in that house and get away with things.
Yeah.
Now, why can I be that much of an ass? Is because I document everything. Okay. Move-in inspections, we probably take 1,000 pictures for a move-in inspection. We'll take 1,000 pictures on a move-out inspection. Okay. The software I use, I'll put a tag in for AppFolio. That's the software that I use. But whether it's AppFolio or Buildium or Propertyware or Yardi or whatever other software that's out there,
yep.
If you document everything properly, then nobody can say something different, right?
For sure.
It's always who's lying. If I'm telling you something, if you can't prove that what I'm telling you is wrong, then it's got to be the truth, right? And a lot of owners, a lot of management companies, they'll have conversations, but they don't document it. Okay? What I tell all of my employees all the time is that if you have a conversation with an owner or a tenant, document it in the file. It goes in AppFolio as notes, conversations. If you send an email out to them, drag and drop it in so you have a copy of it, because someone somewhere down the road is going to say, I never said that, or you never said that, or it wasn't like this when I moved in. And I get that all the time from tenants who say, it wasn't like this when I moved in. Hold on a second. Let me pull up your move-in inspection. Here's the picture. I'll share my screen with you. This is what it looked like when you moved in.
That changes pretty quickly. Yeah.
Very quickly. But if I don't have that picture, how can I prove that it wasn't that way?
Yeah. Yeah. 1,000 photos that we're like 50 to 100 on some of our deals. That is
that's not even touching it. You take a photo of everything.
Yeah. That's solid advice too. I wanted to ask you then on the investments that you got. Okay. So are you selling out of everything and you're not looking to invest, or you're just waiting for the cycle to turn around, rates to come down, something? Or are you just like, I'm going to be on the service side of the business and I'm happy here?
No, I'm not worried about rates, but I am worried about the cycle of business. So the market has been going up. It's a perfect time to sell out. When the market turns again, I'll be buying it on the way down.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. What are you seeing? Where's your crystal ball? Is that happening? Yeah. 12 months, 18 months, whenever you see it, that's when it happens.
We'll see what happens next week. So if the U.S. government defaults, if they actually default, then we're going to have some tough times, and I'm ready to buy.
Yeah.
I don't think that's realistic, but at some point, these rates will have some effect on the market. The problem is, if we go back historically, the rates were well into the teens in the late 70s and early 80s.
Yeah.
So from the late 80s going down, rates have been dropping. So they've been dropping for 40 years. You went from 18% down to 14% to when I got into the business in late 80s, they were 11%. When I started working at JP Morgan, they were just under 10%. And they dropped all the way down to under 3% not too long ago.
Yeah.
Now you're pushing up. Well, the problem with pushing up is that everybody who has a low interest rate, they're not going to sell. Because they can't. If they were to buy a house similar to what they have, they're going to pay twice as much. And to buy something even bigger than what they have is going to be 3 times as much. Okay, so they can't afford to sell what they've got. They're going to stick with it, maybe renovate their house a little bit with some cash, but they're going to keep the house that they're in. There's going to be low turnover. So people are looking to buy, but there's no houses on the market to buy. But at some point, with interest rates being as high as they are, people just can't afford to buy. So you'll get a flat top, and then enough time will go on where loans start to get paid off with these low interest rates, and then the market will move again and push prices down. But it'll be a couple of years. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of the groups and a lot of the things that I listen to. It's or I guess what you hear on the news. It's like, oh, the real estate's going to crash. This is going to happen. But at the moment, exactly the reason behind what you just said, the low interest rates that people currently have, that's an asset that they have. They're not going to sell those houses. So the demand is still there, low supply on the housing stock. So we're still seeing, like, a lot of people that I talk to are still seeing multiple offers on a lot of the houses that are coming online, just because the buyer demand is there, but the inventory is not.
Right. So what we also don't have is in 2008, people were giving away stupid loans. Yeah. There's no income verifications. No one cared about credit. Even working at JP Morgan in 2006, Jamie Dimon was talking about bringing subprime lending onto Chase's books, which I thought was a mistake. At the time, we were selling JP Morgan was selling their subprime loans to Dovimule. And I thought, great, take the fee income, let Dovimule take the hit. Fortunately, JP Morgan never brought subprime lending onto their books. so they survived.
Yeah.
But then you had companies like WAMU, which were doing negative amortization loans, where you paid less than the interest accruing, so your loan balance actually went up month over month. And I had a woman come to me. She was a cleaning woman in the office I was in at the time, and she wanted me to refinance her house. She bought a $600,000 house. Her payment was $1,300 a month because of the negative AM product. Now, a couple of years into it, her loan was $720,000, and the bank was looking for her to pay $6,000 a month, and she was making $36,000 a year in income. So at $36,000 a year, you can afford $1,300 a month, but at $36,000 a year in income, you can't afford a $6,000 a month payment. And she was looking for me to refinance it. There's nothing for me to refinance it to.
Yeah, that's wild.
Just done.
Yeah. 6 months. What is that DSCR? Is that the right one? Is that the number?
Debt service coverage ratio is commercial.
Yes. I'm saying on that,
income ratio is residential.
Yeah. Your income ratio. Yeah. But that's like what, 300% or something on your,
mathematically, it does not work.
For sure. For sure. All right. Well, let's bring it back, because I know you have the lending side. You kind of alluded to it a minute ago. You were talking about how you're using that on that one strategy, but in general, what is that set up for? Is that specifically like a hard money lending company? What is
so
that?
I actually do three things with Metropolitan.
Okay.
So because I have the experience, I still do Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA loans. I'm a licensed mortgage lender. So if you wanted to refinance your house or buy a house, I'll give you a loan. And I still do them all the time.
Yep.
But the second piece I do is commercial consulting. And people who are looking for commercial loans but are having difficulty getting a bank loan, they're generally bankable. They just don't know how to put together their financial package. They come to me, I put together their financial package, I take a fee for it, and regular banks give them a loan on the commercial side.
What does that look like as far as a fee goes when somebody's coming to you for that?
I charge 2 points, 2%.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And you take them from contract to close type deal? Like you get them the day they're, yeah.
Well, usually they're already under contract. Usually they're struggling because they really don't know how to put their financial package together, and no one is really helping them. So usually the people who call me up, they've been to 4 or 5 or 10 lenders and they can't get a yes. We sit down, I put their package together. I go to the same exact lenders and all of them say yes. Because it's just how you put the information together.
Yeah.
And then the third thing I do is hard money lending. So I charge 5 points in either 15% or 5 points in 18%, depending upon the deal. And I have all of my money outstanding because people are lined up to get it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Good terms on that for returns. Yeah. That's solid. Yeah. We're looking at now, we're setting up a deal because I've always enjoyed the owner finance game and setting up loans and creating loans and notes and that sort of thing. But I've looked at doing hard money as well because those returns are great. What are you typically seeing on those? Any defaults coming up? Anybody having a hard time right now, or is that pretty standard business as usual?
So generally when you do a hard money loan, you need to really make sure your pencil is sharpened because it's very easy for someone to default and you get screwed. So I have actually a client where he has me managing some of his rental properties where he's another hard money lender, but he charges 2 points and he's charging 10 to 12% on his money. And he's struggling because he's not making a lot of money on his spread because he borrows money. And he's got a lot of defaults because he's lending higher loan to values and tighter terms. I am careful about the loans that I do. And I'm basically making asset-based loans.
Yeah.
The asset has to be there. So do I have defaults? Sure. I don't care.
Yeah.
Because if they're defaulting, I'm taking their asset.
Yeah. What's your typical, like, where's your happy place on LTV or LTC?
It depends upon the deal and it depends upon the borrower. I do everything on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. One of the first private money guys that I went to here in San Antonio, when you think about anybody listening, if you need money, there are plenty of places you can go get money, right? And Ken is an example of one. But it was a conversation. Literally, it's so interesting going from thinking like you had to get money from certain like a bank or lender or something like that, going and sitting down with a guy, having a face-to-face conversation. He's literally just asking me a bunch of questions. And then his whole thing is like, I'm not going to be in this deal for more than, I don't know, 50, 60%. You need to come up with the rest of the money. He was always very deep in those deals, but then after he loaned me money several times, then he never went and looked at the house. But it turned into a deal where, being on that side, and I'm sure you've seen this, as you just said, you've taken properties back, you end up being in a deal that you didn't have to go source yourself. Somebody needed the money that came to you. So it's like just a pipeline of deals that you can then have, and your basis in the deal is so low. It's a great lead source. It's a great, yeah.
No, and I've been doing this for, greater than north of 30 years, right? Yeah. So I have people I talk to, people it's, relationships are a big thing. So this morning, I actually closed on a deal. There's a bank that I do business with that they have a non-performing loan that they wanted to dump. And because of their situation, I bought the loan from them for about $7,000. And this afternoon, the attorney that I'm using is going to go finish the foreclosure process on it. If I lose the house at foreclosure, like somebody else outbids me, my paycheck would be $400,000. If I get the house back at foreclosure, then the property is valued at about $1.6 million.
Yeah. How many of those do you do? Like that's not
that's a diamond in the rough. I mean, that doesn't come very often at all. Yeah. I'm surprised I got this deal, but I didn't even ask for it. I didn't solicit it. The bank actually talked to the attorney that I happen to work with. And I know both of them. They were talking to each other, and somebody just picked the phone and called me and said, "Hey, are you interested in this? They have to unload this loan, and they'll take it, pennies for it." It's like, okay.
Yeah. Well, what is the scenario though, where they know in a few days they can get that? Like, kind of dig into that a little bit.
What do you mean?
If you can, well, what's this? Why wouldn't they just hold it for another few days, foreclose on it themselves, get that 400?
Well, it's not a few days. It's months.
Oh, it has been months.
The process hasn't started yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So I instructed the attorney that we funded it this morning. I told him before the end of the day to start filing the papers on the foreclosure process because there's no reason to sit on it. Yeah.
So you're taking their position in order to foreclose. They had no stomach to foreclose. Again, I don't understand why.
No, I can't really tell you what the inside story is on that, but it's basically I was in the right place at the right time and knew the right people.
Yeah. Did you ever get into any sub-twos? I know 2008, 9, 10, like we were taking over people's properties subject to the existing finance. Did you ever do any of that?
No, I never took anything subject to.
Okay.
So there were, in 2008, PNC Bank actually got into some trouble locally here. And they funded a single-family home development out in Accokeek, Maryland. And the houses were all sold for anywhere between $700,000 to $850,000. But because of the problems that PNC had, they said, okay, we'll take 50 cents on the dollar. So they were taking payments of $300,000 to $350,000 to pay off the loans. But of course, none of the owners had the money. Nobody could do it, and nobody would refinance them because their credit all sucked. So somebody called me up, and went around the neighborhood, and I was picking up those properties for $320,000, $340,000 each. And basically what I would do is I say, I'm buying the property. You become a tenant in the property, and their mortgages were, say, $6,000. My costs were $3,000. They'd be paying me $4,500. So less than what the mortgage would be. And then I gave them a buyback. I'm picking up for $320,000, $340,000. They could buy it back for me between $450,000 and $500,000 that they originally paid $700,000 or $800,000 for. So they would get a haircut if they bought it back for me in 2 or 3 years. Yeah, with their credit together. Some did, some didn't. If they didn't, I sold the property at market. If they did, I just made $150,000 on it. Plus, I was taking cash flow every month.
Yeah, that's solid. So, were you going in putting debt on that, or was that cash? What were you doing at the time to be able to secure those things?
Oh no, I leveraged it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that how you got
Money
your
was
80
cheap.
properties? Did you basically buy that neighborhood, or was that part of your?
That's part of. I didn't buy the whole neighborhood.
Yeah.
I didn't eggs in baskets, right? Not all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
So I did a few of them. Then I let some other people do a few because you don't want to get too greedy.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't work out, then you're stuck with a whole neighborhood of whatever.
Yeah.
So I did a few. I brought a few other people that I know in. They did a few.
So I got a question then. So how do you keep your eye open for these opportunities? Because at times in my investing career, I have tried to stay focused on one maybe strategy or one thing, but it sounds like you have been able to identify and actually execute on different strategies throughout the time. So like, what is it that you think has given you that ability to see and then execute those things?
Well, basically, I've had my same phone number since 1991, and people call me and they say, Ken, I've got a situation. Can you help me?
I'm a
and
fixer.
the answer is, let's see what the situation is. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
So it's a story, right? They tell me their story and I decide if I want to help them or not. Yeah.
Anything low hanging, any interesting stories that you're hearing now? Like, what do you think is going to come up, or what kind of opportunities are you looking at now as far as investments?
Well, right now, because COVID is now done, and a lot of the condominium associations that I manage, the delinquencies, we couldn't foreclose on them. So now we're going to start hitting the foreclosure punch. There's going to be 2 I'm going to foreclose on June 1st. So we'll pick them up.
Yeah.
We'll just pick up all these properties.
Yeah.
At foreclosure, and a property that's worth $250,000, I'll pick up for $20,000 or $30,000.
Okay. Yeah. So, are you raising capital too? Are you doing any kind of fund or syndication, or is this all like self-funded deals that you're working on?
Well, I like partners because then I can do more things.
Yeah.
So I'm always interested in talking to people who, if they want to be partners, but they're going to be silent partners. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I get the deals. I'm doing it my way. If you want to participate and make some money, great. I'll take the cash out, and we're leveraging the deals so I can spread out and do more deals, doing it my way.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I a lot of great information, strategies, things. Obviously you're sophisticated in the real estate world in many facets. So I want to leave it at that, just because I want to get your contact information in there if anybody's looking, and that's kind of a plug that you can have for anybody looking to invest in some strategies or some deals that you're working on, things that you're doing. So I'm going to put your contact information in the show notes. I really appreciate you jumping on. It's a fascinating conversation, and I want to stay in touch to see kind of what you're working on. So
anytime.
Awesome. Ken, I appreciate it. Did you know that 80% of the agents we speak with got into real estate in order to gain passive income so they could obtain financial freedom and become work optional? If you want to stay up to date, the best way is to make sure you're subscribed. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do it now. We'll catch you on the next episode.